Please take your seats. I request all of you to please settle down. Good evening. We will be starting soon. I request all of you to kindly take your seats and ensure that your phones are on silent mode to facilitate the live stream. Our guests are joining us soon. I once again request everyone to have their phones on silent mode and please take your seats. Thank you. Namaskara and good evening, everyone. I welcome our distinguished guests, faculty members, students, and friends. A warm welcome to Chanakya University's yet another distinguished lecture series. We are gathered here today for an enriching lecture by Ambassador Ashok Kantha, who is a former ambassador of India to China. The theme for today's lecture is Towards Neighbourhood First 2.0. I am Gauri Dikshit and I'm honored to be your host for this exceptional evening. I request all of you to please rise for the Chanakya anthem. Kindly take your seats. Thank you. I now request Professor Chetan Singhai to share the details about the Chair on International Relations with us.
Namaste to everyone. It is indeed a pleasure to meet you all for the Distinguished Lecture Series under the aegis of Subhas Chandra Bose Chair in International Relations at Chanakya University. The Subhas Chandra Bose Chair in International Relations is young but strongly evolving chair working on areas that cut across the modern Western discourses to the Indian rootedness. The vision of the Chair on International Relations at Chanakya University is largely anchored on various impacts that we see in India and how world sees India and how India sees the world. That's the spectrum in which we anchor our studies. The Chair in the last 1 year or so was ably guided by Ambassador P.S. Raghavan. Ambassador P.S. Raghavan, the former distinguished ambassador from India to various parts of the world, has guided us very deeply and also provided critical directions. Today, we stand here. Before we commence the Distinguished Lecture Series, I take this moment on behalf of Chanakya University to extend an obituary to late Ambassador P.S. Raghavan, whom we lost very recently. While he was very much active, he was very much in touch with us and had constantly provided guidance whenever we went to him. And more importantly, those interactions always emerged with new ideas, and ideas which always led India towards direction of what we envisage it to be globally. So I request all of you to please raise for a minute of silence, observing the contribution of late P.S. Raghavan's contribution. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Ambassador Raghavan's contribution to the country and to the chair is deeply revered. Dear guests, the Distinguished Lecture Series has been Chanakya University's flagship forum for knowledge dissemination. Let us now watch a short video on DLS.
We are pleased to present the Chanakya Distinguished Lecture Series, a conclave that is designed to disseminate the essence of understanding from contemporary developmental concerns. From economics to international relations, from mathematics to foreign policy, the Chanakya Distinguished Lecture Series brings some of the world's sharpest minds to one stage. The series has witnessed Professor Manjul Bhargava on the magic of maths through music, Dr. Vivek Debroy on India's economic transitions, Professor Walter Russell Mead on global power shifts, Professor Jean-Louis Arcan on understanding poverty of nations, Professor Harsh Pant on India's foreign policy vision and transition, Sri Sanjeev Sanyal on process reforms, the road to Viksit Bharat, and today featuring Sri Ashok K. Kantha, former ambassador of India to China, on Towards Neighbourhood First 2.0.
Pleasure to introduce Ambassador Ashok K. Kantha to all of you. Ambassador Kantha, a diplomat, was a former ambassador of India to China from 2014 to 16. Prior to this, he was Secretary East at the Ministry of External Affairs. His previous assignments include High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, High Commissioner to Malaysia, Joint Secretary East Asia at the Ministry of External Affairs, Consul General in Hong Kong, Deputy Chief of Mission in Nepal, Director at China, Director of MEA for Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. Earlier, Ambassador Kantha has served in different capacities at Indian missions in Singapore, China, and the USA, and as well as at the headquarters in New Delhi. His diplomatic career spanning over 38 years, Ambassador Kantha specialized in India's neighborhood and extended neighborhood with a particular focus on China and South Asia. He has an advanced certificate in Chinese language from the National University of Singapore. Apart from these diplomatic assignments in China, he has handled relations with China in policy positions at the Ministry of External Affairs for 8 years and was the lead Indian negotiator for key agreements with China, including the agreement on political parameters and guiding principles of boundary settlement and the agreement on military confidence building measures. Ambassador Kantha is also an honorary fellow and former director from 2017 to 22 at the Institute of Chinese Studies, New Delhi, a distinguished fellow at Vivekananda International Foundation, New Delhi, chair of the core group on China at the Confederation of Indian Industry, and he has recently joined Chanakya University. Yet another distinguished position that Sir has taken up at the university is to join us as the inaugural chairperson of the Subhas Chandra Bose Chair on International Relations. Before we delve into the intellectual feast that awaits us today, I request once again that all of you have your mobile phones on silent mode to facilitate the live stream. Over the next 40 minutes, Ambassador Kantha will take us through India's evolving policy on the Neighbourhood First 2.0. This lecture promises to offer an engaging and insightful exploration of India's foreign policy, its neighbourhood, and the dynamics shaping its regional engagement. Now, without further ado, let us welcome our distinguished speaker. Sir, we request you to join us on the dais.
Shri MP Kumar, founder, Pro-Chancellor, Chanakya University, Vice-Chancellor Professor Yashwant Dongreji, Professor Chetan Singhai, faculty members, students and all distinguished participants here. It really gives me great pleasure to be with you this evening to deliver this lecture at this prestigious forum, Indian Institute of World Culture, Bengaluru. Before I commence my lecture, allow me a moment of personal reflection on two milestones that frame this occasion. One shadowed by an irreplaceable loss that Chetan just talked about, and other, in a way, illuminated by new possibilities. Our gathering today is amidst deep sorrow at the untimely demise of Ambassador P.S. Raghavan on 24th November at the age of 70. For me, Raghavan was not only a dear colleague, but also a very dear friend, someone I greatly respected, someone I worked with very closely in different points of time, and someone who commanded enormous affection in the Foreign Service fraternity and among others, including in Chanakya University, he came in touch with. He was one of the most accomplished diplomats of my generation. I joined Foreign Service in 77, he joined 2 years later in 79, whose wisdom seemed boundless. His career, as you're aware, was marked by exceptional service to the nation in different capacities, as ambassador to Russia, as a long-serving chair of National Security Advisory Board, and very critical 4 years as a very effective Joint Secretary in Shri Vajpayee's Prime Minister's office. In all these assignments, he exemplified the highest ideals of my profession: razor-sharp intellect, livened by profound humility, strategic foresight, tempered by unwavering integrity and a very rare ability to humanize the most intricate geopolitical dilemmas. Ever helpful, he carried his professional achievements lightly, with his gentle disposition, ready smile, understated manners, and tremendous reservoir of empathy. I carry vivid memories of our shared moments. There are so many of them, but I'll refer to three which in a way stand as testament to his character. When he was Joint Secretary in Prime Minister's office, and we had just completed Prime Minister Vajpayee's very successful visit to China, and we embarked on something which called for a lot of imagination and thinking out of the box, that is seeking a political settlement of the boundary question. As Joint Secretary East Asia, I was tasked to negotiate the agreement on political parameters and guiding principles under the leadership of Sri Brijesh Mishra. That was a period when we were struggling. We were trying to find answers to questions which were uncharted territory. And in Raghavan, one always had a close ally, someone who could help you find answers, someone who could find common space that eluded lesser minds. Later, when I was High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, soon after the end of civil war in 2009, we were trying to play a large role in resettlement, rehabilitation, reconstruction of war-damaged Sri Lanka, doing many projects. One big project was constructing 50,000 houses. There again, Raghavan had just taken over as head of Development Partnership Administration, a new initiative of Ministry of External Affairs. And I saw him in a different avatar. This was not traditional foreign policy, but nonetheless it required ability to get over administrative obstacles, and many times we were suggesting solutions which didn't quite fit in traditional hidebound rule books. I'm sure you're all aware of that. Raghavan made it possible, and in his typical style, credit was always given to field office. That is mission. He never claimed credit. Third, more recently, I was editing a book on China which came out, Bloomsbury brought out in August. February, I was aware that Raghavan is unwell, but I didn't know how unwell he was. I sent him a message that this book will be incomplete without your chapter. And that chapter was on China-Russia relations. He got back to me immediately. He said, no, I'll send you the chapter in 15 days. And chapter came on time. That was the only chapter in the book where as editor I didn't have to make any changes or suggest any changes, despite the fact that he was, battling illness, the same quiet dignity that defined his life. He could deliver a product which was flawless, incisive, and required no revisions. That was Raghavan for you. On this day, when I have the honor of being invited by Chanakya University to be the first occupant of chair professorship, under Subhas Chandra Bose Chair in International Relations. Let me add that Netaji's vision of a resurgent India, strategically autonomous yet globally engaged, finds echo in Raghavan's legacy of thoughtful diplomacy, what he stood for. I'm sure all of you can testify to that. Later this evening, we will be releasing the edited volume, Reconstructing India's Worldview, a strategic realignment. I understand that this collection emerged from a roundtable which was held in June last year, and that was chaired by Raghavan. It contains essays that probe the imperatives of realigning a global posture amidst flux. This is something we were discussing with the Honorable Vice Chancellor and Shri MP Kumarji, what kind of uncertainty we are living through. So it will be a fitting homage to man who always dared to transcend silos and envision a cohesive strategic horizon for our country. Let's now turn to the theme of my talk, reimagining India's engagement with its neighbourhood. I want to be frank from the outset about the purpose of this address. This is not meant to be a paean to past achievements, nor a catalogue of platitudes. I hope to present before you a hard-headed, operationally oriented argument for a reset of India's neighbourhood policy. Call it Neighbourhood First 2.0. I don't pretend to be an IR scholar. I'm not one. But as a practitioner who has devoted quite a bit of his career to neighbourhood, these are, some ideas which have germinated over the years. So aim is to offer a candid diagnosis of where the original policy succeeded, Neighbourhood First 1.0, where it came short, to confront the strategic realities of our time, including the rise of China, our current anxieties about US policies, and once again, acute uncertainties about the geopolitical landscape we are living through. And they propose 10 interlinked propositions that could perhaps guide our conduct or help shape our conduct to a limited extent in the coming decade. These propositions are not abstract. They are meant to be practical, politically realistic, and mutually reinforcing. India's Neighbourhood First policy represents, no doubt, a cornerstone of our foreign policy edifice unveiled by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2014 with the symbolic invitation to SAARC leaders to his swearing-in ceremony. Yet its roots delve deeper, drawing sustenance from a long-held belief that India must consider non-reciprocal generosity towards smaller neighbours as a pathway to regional harmony. The evolution lies in its proactive vigour, a deliberate pivot towards forging economic interdependence, seamless connectivity across digital and physical realms, and vibrant people-to-people exchanges. Let me clarify that I am deliberately keeping our relations with China and Pakistan outside the framework of these propositions, as they must be handled separately. For one reason, those are extremely complex engagements, and secondly, what I am suggesting by way of non-reciprocal arrangements cannot be offered to either China or Pakistan. Prime Minister's Neighbourhood First policy undoubtedly reprioritized South Asia, delivered tangible connectivity and development projects, and restored high-level political outreach, something which was lacking. In fact, Prime Minister of India had not been to many of the neighboring countries for some time. Prime Minister Modi changed that. He took, in a way, personal charge of diplomacy with those countries. Practical gains include expanded development cooperation, increased project pipelines in Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal, and more assertive, more proactive Indian presence in regional forums and people-to-people exchanges. One can say that these moves, in a way, reversed a period of relative neglect, signaled India's capacity to deliver regional public goods, and improved India's diplomatic visibility across our neighborhood. There have been real achievements, no doubt about it. I'll not go into catalogue of those. Just to give you a few examples, the land boundary agreement with Bangladesh, 2015, and this marked continuity really because it started with the previous government. It had delivered very durable outcomes in terms of our engagement with Bangladesh. Some of that is under pressure today for such reasons you are aware of. India's development assistance, lines of credit, infrastructure projects, and disaster relief has mattered on the ground. India's role as first responder has been truly extraordinary, and this is on display just now in Sri Lanka, in midst of natural disaster they are facing, but it really had its shining hour after Sri Lanka was faced with multiple political and economic crises in 2022. And at a time when others were sort of ignoring that crisis, we stepped in a very big way with support package equivalent to nearly $4 billion. And that helped really Sri Lanka overcome that crisis. It's on the mend now. We had likewise intervened in 2015 after earthquake, and that again, it was, I understand Prime Minister himself happened to see on television what was happening in Nepal, and he personally got in touch with Prime Minister Nepal who was traveling abroad. And within hours, Indian Air Force had managed to land relief supplies, relief personnel, sniffer dogs in Kathmandu. And that really helped not only to rebuild infrastructure, but also rebuild trust. Though a few things happened which caused a setback in Nepal after that. There are many other examples. Bhutan, their contribution to our Eastern Power Grid, sub-regional power grid involving India, Nepal, Bangladesh, which has been a success story. On security side, Colombo Security Conclave, Sagar, its manifestation, including what we did in Red Sea, when others were shying away, China didn't want to get involved. We helped in ensuring that Indian Ocean lifelines were kept open to the extent possible. Yet, I will acknowledge that the record is mixed. The policy has been uneven in implementation, and its gains remain fragile. Pakistan's proxy terrorism persists as an ulcer, with cross-border incursions undeterred, unfortunately. Bangladesh's political churn in 2024 has upended apple carts and demanding deft diplomacy to restore equilibrium. Let's see what happens in the country following elections next year. Structural demons lurk. Myanmar's ethnic milestones spill refugees. Nepal's hedging dalliances, Beijing continue unabated. Climate displacements, Himalayan thaws threaten all. We have seen series of cases of political instability in our neighborhood, beginning with Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nepal, and that process still unfolding, exposes vulnerability of a region. Bhutan is an oasis of good sense and good neighborly relations, but we must work hard to ensure that it remains like that. We remain wary of Taliban in Afghanistan, but we have done the right thing by reaching out to them, by rebuilding diplomatic relations, providing humanitarian assistance. We suffered setback in the Maldives, but we have managed to retrieve ground quite well there. India has sometimes been slow to read political signals. We have overly identified with particular leaders and insufficiently institutionalized engagement across the political spectrum. I recall my own days in Nepal as Deputy Chief Mission. We had 5 changes of government during that period. We, as a matter of policy, kept out of those changes. Only thing I used to request our Nepalese colleagues, please don't catch us by surprise. We should know what's happening, and we generally knew what was happening, but we didn't try to shape political outcomes because we believed that was not desirable. Sometimes I think that discipline has not been maintained. We have moved too close to political leaders, or at least we allowed those perceptions to gain ground. Sometimes we haven't distanced ourselves from unpopular policies in Bangladesh, for instance, the way we could have done. We have not allowed, we have allowed rather, issues, differences, disputes to fester. I have in mind the fishery issue in Sri Lanka, whereas High Commissioner in Colombo, frankly, I could not justify behavior of fishermen. I'll be honest with you. And then, of course, we have China's economic and diplomatic penetration across the board, whether it's infrastructure, trade, investment, defense and security linkages, and elite capture. This has continued apace, and this has been exploited by elements inimical to us. Not surprisingly, our smaller neighbors also have tried to use China as a countervailing force vis-a-vis India. It has, in a way, complicated our diplomacy and also reduced space available for regional cooperation. Because this is another area we have not succeeded. Somehow we have been very cynical or skeptical about regionalism. If we are honest, we'll have to acknowledge Neighbourhood First has produced important wins, yet it has not created the dense web of interdependence that would make the neighbourhood resilient to political churn and external influence. That was the objective, create a sort of environment where these countries understand why it's important to have closer engagement with us. Now, as a colleague of mine who would not like to be named has pointed out, prophylactics, antidotes, therapeutics, and therapies are many. The basic question is how we optimize them, how we ensure that the response to the country concerned is rational. It takes into account some of our core interests, especially in security arena, and mutually productive. Task before us is to convert potential into permanence, and this is what I'll try to do. A set of suggestions from my side. But before I do that, let me straightway debunk two popular notions that are being talked about. One is that in our journey towards Viksit Bharat 2047, we can transcend our neighborhood. That India is a major power. Our arena is not limited to our immediate neighborhood. Why get bogged down by neighborhood? Some observers decry South Asia as a fractured construct, a mere cartographic convenience, unmoved by mistrust and outward gazes towards the Middle East and Southeast Asia, where intra-regional trade, as you are aware, is just 5% compared to 25% for ASEAN. Such pessimism might be capturing present stagnation of SAARC and also allure of bilateral arrangements, but they overlook the geopolitical verity. For India, the periphery is not detachable appendage, but the very keel of its strategic vessel. This is something we can never afford to ignore. So our destiny will remain anchored and rooted in our neighborhood. We shouldn't forget that. So we have to create, we have to weave interdependencies, economic, ecological, and existential, that will be mutually productive. Second, argument I would like to challenge. We must eschew the temptation to re-Christian our shared space as the Indian subcontinent. A term which is redolent with geographic fidelity, I have no doubt about it. Yet, it's laced with peril. And I'm saying that as a former practitioner of diplomacy. South Asia is an artificial construct. It was born out of Cold War neutrality of 1950s, yet it has come to be accepted, including by 8 member countries of SAARC. If we start questioning this construct, I don't see what we'll gain, but we will give fodder to those who keep accusing us of hegemony. And this will undermine, whatever fragile consensus we managed to nurture. So why exhume embers when the term, for all its imperfections, sustains our diplomatic endeavors? They're not coming in the way. There's one more aspect I would like to briefly touch upon before I come to 10 propositions. No reckoning of our neighborhood can omit the wandering elephants in our shared periphery. China's inexorable advance and the United States' fitful and increasingly unpredictable involvement. Both are strategic realities that shape the choices available to India. It's an inconvenient truth that the strategic environment in our neighborhood had changed to our disadvantage in recent years. And that has, in a way, been accelerated in the last few months. Now, China's rise is not merely an economic phenomenon, it's a political and strategic project. China looks at South Asia or our adjoining maritime zone as its periphery. Since 2013, when Communist Party of China had this very important forum on China's periphery diplomacy, they consider this to be part of their strategic periphery. And a whole lot of things which have been done. From making South Asia a major beneficiary of Belt and Road Initiative and subset China-Pakistan economic corridor, to defense collaboration. Three main recipients of China's defense supplies: Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, in that order. They account for more than 60% of China's defense exports. The way they have stepped up their footprint in our region, the way they are interfering in domestic affairs of these countries, something which is politely described as elite capture or influence operations, but have first-hand experience of how this is being done by China. These are all developments which create challenges for us, because China is not interested in a multipolar Asia. This is something we have been discussing with them, including, in fact, just a few days ago in a track 2 dialogue, the subject came up, and they make it clear that, in Asia or Asia Pacific, there is only one major power. That is China. There is one non-resident major power, USA. So where is the question of multipolarity in Asia? If you confront such a mindset, finding common space, ability to work together in our shared periphery becomes so much more challenging. And China has, if you just look at trade, how many people realize that last year China's trade surplus with SAARC countries was $143 billion. $143 billion. It's a huge amount. $102 billion in India, but remaining, with other countries. And China's all-weather friendship with Pakistan. The way it's developed, I will not go into past, but just to refer to what happened during Op Sindoor. We have been monitoring, China's behavior very closely, and what we saw was an unprecedented level of operational battlefield collusion between China and Pakistan, where they were giving real-time support in a manner which was described in a public comment by Deputy Chief of Army Staff. It led to what one can call, an extended theatre. So we had conflict with Pakistan, but China was the ever-present factor providing support, and this will become only worse in future. We'll have to bear that in mind. In Indian Ocean region, they are deploying what one can call two-ocean strategy. So they regard Indian Ocean as an arena for their regular operations. So they normalized their presence in this part of the world. China is the second largest economy in the world, is the leading trading nation in the world. It's not surprising that our neighbors would like to engage with it. We have no problem with that. But our problem arises when it ignores our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, our security, our vital interests, and engages in behavior which hurt us directly. So we'll have to factor that in. I'll come to that, how we respond to that. In case of the US, the comfort level of working together has declined very clearly, markedly in recent months. You're aware of positions President Donald Trump has been taking on Pakistan. You're aware of signals, negative signals being sent by Washington DC to us. There are concerns about the US support to the present regime in Dhaka, despite their adopting policies which are not helpful. And there is a speculation, I cannot vouchsafe for that, of certain involvement of elements of US establishment in what is described as Gen G, phenomenon in Kathmandu, in Nepal. So this is again an area we need to look into. Now, against this background, let me outline 10 interlinked propositions for Neighbourhood First 2.0. First proposition, and this is the most important point, make economic partnership the strategic centerpiece. If Neighbourhood First emphasize assistance, Neighbourhood First 2.0 must emphasize economic partnership. Objective should be to move towards a common economic space, something which prevailed earlier. That was the natural geography, both political and economic, of Indian subcontinent. Here I'll use the term Indian subcontinent. How to create stakes in that. Assistance can buy goodwill, but if we can, offer something which gives these countries stakes in India's growth story. India's growth story can propel growth of neighboring countries, and here again I'm keeping Pakistan out because they don't want to be part of our growth story. And proceeding from a purely practical point of view, how do you deal with challenges like climate change or melting glaciers? They don't respect any national boundaries, so we'll have to work with our neighboring countries. Here, our strength is that India is not only the largest economy in this part of the world, it's the fastest growing economy, and we can benefit from entering into arrangements which can be non-reciprocal in character. Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Jaishankar, has publicly spoken about this. And honestly, as a large economy, we can do that. It's not that it will cause such difficulties for our own economy. So as we deal with trans-border issues across state borders, in some areas we'll have to deal with the trans-boundary issue across national boundary to encourage evolution of this common economic space. It's not going to be an easy proposition because we'll have to get over a whole lot of accumulated suspicions and grievances on both sides. But just to give you a couple of examples, having served in the neighborhood for long years, when our neighbors complain about non-tariff barriers, they have a point. There are concerns which are real, but I'm not suggesting unfettered liberalization. There will be suitable safeguards, because generosity without safeguards can be very risky. There will be domestic political sensitivities that need to be addressed, but it's best to address that upfront. Sometimes we try to do things stealthily. That doesn't work. Even reforms have reached a stage where problems have to be confronted upfront, solutions offered and explained honestly. But what we gain by way of stability in our neighborhood, building mutual stakes in each other's progress will much more than compensate for what we do by way of offering certain non-reciprocal commitments. And here, we'll have to, a no-brainer is a connectivity agenda, roads, rails, riverine connectivity, power grid connectivity, ferries, digital connectivity, and possibly even land bridge. connecting Sri Lanka with southern India. That will be a game changer. Integrating our neighbors in our supply chain, where they find market in India, and our manufacturers, our investors find openings in those countries. When a neighbor's factories supply Indian manufacturers, when its ports serve Indian trade, when its energy pipelines feed Indian grids, the cost of antagonism rises. It becomes more difficult for them to, engage in a pattern of behavior we have seen in the past. So this is the strategic logic of economic interdependence. A whole lot of ideas, things revived. We can discuss during Q&A if you like. When I was in Colombo, President Mahinda Rajapaksa used to recall how his mother took boat mail. They used to travel up to Talamana, took a ferry, come to, that time it was, I think Dhanushkodi was still there, it has not been washed away, and take a train to Bodh Gaya. Now, this kind of thing can be done seamlessly today with improvement in our infrastructure, with the kind of digital advances we have made. Just one example I'm giving, it's a very low cost option. But this will require, change in mindset and practice. I'm not elaborating on it. Maybe I'll give a paper to Chetan for publication later with more detailed ideas. Second proposition is, making connectivity resilient and politically hedged. It's not, connectivity will not come easily. I talked about connectivity earlier. So projects will have to be designed with political risk mitigation, local ownership and redundancy. These are things which we don't discuss. And we end up in situations like India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway, never-ending project, or Sitwe is completed, but there's no backward linkages, so it cannot be operationalized. Also because what's happening in Myanmar today. So a lot of hard work needs to be put in, not just by government, but by places like Chanakya University. Come up with practical ideas, practical solutions to problems which are real, anticipating risks which will arise, and finding answers to them. And answers lie in a local community buy-in and transparency in our approach, including giving access to transparent procurement to reduce backlash. Third proposition I would like to talk about, I've already referred to that earlier, is institutionalization of India's role as first responder while respecting sovereignty. Both are equally important. We have a proven track record of being a very effective first responder. In fact, the way India reacts to natural disasters, both within the country and outside, our record actually is much better than that of advanced countries like USA. They tend to struggle, in fact. Our mantra has to be ask first, act fast. We don't do things on our own. I recall when I was in Colombo, there was a major flooding in eastern province of Sri Lanka. So I just asked President, is there something we can do? He said, yes, we need something very desperately. He said, let us know what you need exactly, because you don't want send something you don't need. His brother Basil Rajapaksa, same afternoon, he gave me a list of items they needed. And I passed on to Delhi, spoke to Defense Secretary and some other people, because I had committed that the first aircraft supply will reach day after tomorrow without checking with Delhi. We have what is called HADR bricks. They are pre-packaged, pre-arranged supplies. But most of the items they asked for were not part of HADR bricks. So they had to do procurement overnight. But first aircraft did come day after tomorrow. Now, that created certain credibility for us. Now, we need to institutionalize. A lot of good practices are there, but perhaps create a neighborhood rapid response mechanism, so that we have a drill for responding, and not every time we have to respond in an ad hoc, improvised manner. Mechanism that can include the preposition supply, standby financial instruments, because sometimes our approvals are very difficult to achieve. Trained joint teams, because we need to put in Sri Lanka also, in fact, we have put our NDRF personnel on ground to help out, and having some prior understandings so that time is not wasted, because time is of essence in many of these situations, avoiding any impression of unilateralism. And crucially, India must resist the temptation to use assistance and leverage. This we deliberately avoided doing. China used to parade what they were offering when I was in Colombo and Golf Face Green. We never did that because it doesn't help. Fourth proposition, resolve practical bilateral irritants through technical enforceable solutions. We allow problems to fester. There are issues where we can't show flexibility, like Nepal is making very unreasonable demand on us on certain territories, Kalapani, Limpiadhura. As a former border negotiator, I can say with all honesty that we have a very strong case there. But there are other areas where we can, with flexibility, with with showing some out-of-box approach, we can show results and take care of problems. I referred to fishermen's issue with Sri Lanka. Now, fishermen's issue, what's happening today, we're running out of time because we have already used up marine resources in our waters. We are going to Sri Lankan waters, causing a lot of heartburn, engaging in practices like bottom trawling. Eventually, we'll have to move towards deep sea fishing, create capacities for that, help our fishermen do that, help Sri Lankan fishermen do that, have some, sort of transition arrangements. But the present situation cannot drag on. I'm just giving you an example that with patience, technical expertise, and willingness to find solutions, we can find solutions to some problems which are creating a lot of heartburn among our neighbors. Fifth proposition is deepening people-to-people ties through education, mobility, and professional exchanges. This is again, an underutilized asset we have. I recall my own college days. We used to have a lot of students coming from Nepal for studying in Patna University. That has dried up. They prefer going to China, to India, though they're not at all comfortable there. So that catchment area which we have for recruiting students is not being utilized. So providing more scholarships, vocational training, professional exchanges, liberalization of mobility for students, professionals and others, all that can be done without undermining our security. Sometimes we make a bugbear out of security. As someone who's been part of government for a long time, I can say that we can take care of our security while at the same time remaining what we are, an open society. There will be a political cost to greater mobility. I concede that. So this will require preparation. This will require sometimes compensating people, but most importantly, being honest, explaining, transparency. Sixth proposition is development of defense linkages, build maritime partnerships, and protect sea lines of communication. When we talk about our red lines vis-a-vis our neighbors, often we try not to define them, because once you define red lines, first it becomes limiting, and second, what happens if they cross the red line? What to do after that? But red lines are primarily in the area of defense and security. So they know what are red lines. We manage to convey it quietly to them. But this requires, sort of building up a level of collaboration in defense and security for which all building blocks are present. I can tell you that when it comes to defense training, Sri Lanka will any day prefer India as a partner to China. They are so much more comfortable. When it comes to defense procurement, we were constrained earlier by our capacity. Now that's changing because our defense production industry is making headway. I recall, sorry to give another example from my own experience. Chinese had persuaded Sri Lanka to buy offshore petrol vessels from China. We got to know about it, and we met Gotabaya Rajpaksha. He was Defense Secretary, and I told him that, look here, we can offer you something better. Goa Shipyard, CMD himself came and made a presentation which was very impressive. We offered line of credit. We got the order. Both advanced OPVs were delivered ahead of schedule to full satisfaction of Sri Lanka. I'm just giving an example. Now we can replicate that. If we do that, openings we leave for China and others will be limited to that extent. There's a lot of security, intelligence, cooperation which is taking place. It's not talked about. People are aware that before Easter Sunday bombing in Sri Lanka, we had provided intelligence. They didn't act on it. Reviving, revitalizing, reinforcing those linkages are extremely important. Defense cooperation is really an underutilized, force multiplier. We need to deploy it to maximum extent possible. National Defense College, I discovered that there were 20 chiefs of Army, Navy and Air Force in Sri Lanka, alumni of NDC. So we set up an alumni chapter in Sri Lanka, the only one outside India, just to give you another example. Maritime domain awareness, maritime security, we have success stories bilaterally as also in sub-regional construct, especially Colombo Security Conclave. So we need to redouble our efforts and ensure that these are not seen as dominance by India or unilateral initiatives of India. They are seen as joint projects where our neighbors, which are smaller, feel that they're equal, stakeholders, co-owners of those initiatives. Seventh proposition is using multilateral and sub-regional platforms pragmatically. This is one area we have come short in a very big way. Our traditional preference has been bilateral collaboration. We remain engaged with SAARC, as you're aware, since 2014, when it was Pakistan's turn to host SAARC summit, it's essentially lying dormant. We looked at BIMSTEC as another platform which could be developed as an alternative to SAARC. Didn't quite happen. BBIN, again, same story. I think need for some radical new thinking there. First, any notion that BIMSTEC can replace SAARC is a non-starter. BIMSTEC is a good bridge between South Asia and Southeast Asia, but it cannot be the primary regional forum for South Asia. We have to find ways of reviving SAARC. Personally, maybe in minority of one, but my view is that if Pakistan were to host a SAARC summit, heavens will not fall. Idea is to revive the process and take lead. This is something we have never done. We have believed that others will be more suspicious if India takes the lead. My own engagement with colleagues from South Asia, with the exception of Pakistan, has been that they expect India to take the lead. And we have to take the lead, but do in a manner where they feel that they are also in charge. They will projects Pakistan will undoubtedly try to sabotage. That's part of their DNA. But SAARC Charter also allows for sub-regional cooperation. So Pakistan minus approach is available, which has been discussed in the past, but not quite operationalized. BIMSTEC, again, we are discussing FTA for ages. I was in Bangkok at the time of the last BIMSTEC summit as part of Track 2 dialogue. It's not going anywhere. It will not go anywhere again until India takes the charge. We are the largest economy, we are the largest nation, and we should be willing to if necessary, put some cards on the table. Moving to my 8th proposition, strengthening strategic communication and narrative and expectation management. Why is it that neighbors perceive India as domineering and transactional? And then they seek external balancing. To some extent, external balancing is inevitable. If we seek strategic autonomy, why deny that position to our neighbors? They also want to maximize their options, and sometimes they feel that they can get a better deal by reaching out to China, less often USA. They will do it. There's nothing we can do to prevent that. But our expectation, and here expectations are managed very carefully, has to be that respect certain core sensitivities we have, and especially in the area of defense and security. And there's need for policy coherence, which is completely lacking. We never speak with one voice on matters relating to our engagement with our neighbors. I think that needs to change. So sometimes, investments we make, time we expend, resources we deploy, returns are not commensurate because we end up, sending wrong signals. Prime Minister had a great visit to Nepal, his first visit, great visit, outstanding. Soon after that visit, we decided to get involved in constitutional making process in Nepal and do so publicly at a time when draft constitution is going to be promulgated. And some actions, whether we took those actions or not, but they were seen as India imposing some kind of embargo on Nepal. The negative fallout persists to date. So we can, sometimes in hurry, we can do damage to long-term interests. So how to manage that? I think that's something we have to do all the time. 9th proposition, institutionalization of cross-spectrum engagement with neighbors, but avoiding playing favorites. This is critically important. I think we need to put in place a very elaborate rubric for engagement with neighboring countries in different domains, whether it be parliamentary exchanges or civil society interactions or exchange of journalists, institutionalize it. But while we don't have luxury of not getting involved in politics of these countries, playing favorites doesn't help. Our being seen as being too close to a certain individual or a certain political party becomes counterproductive. And this forecloses certain options for us. There are situations we have managed very well. Most recently, I'll give you an example again from Sri Lanka. When we had the transition taking place, Ranil Wickremesinghe, he lost. Anurag Kumar Dissanayake became president. There were a lot of concerns given his background. But actually, we had kept in close touch with him in the past. And during the run-up to elections, he was invited to India as guest of ICCR, but given high-level meetings. So a signal was sent that we are not taking sides. It's for you to decide who will be the next president of Sri Lanka. We are willing to work with that. So this kind of positioning is very important. Final proposition is that we have to acknowledge the fact that there is no Monroe Doctrine for us in South Asia. So China will continue to treat South Asia or our shared periphery as its strategic periphery. It will continue to engage in a pattern of behavior we find objectionable. Likewise, we have sought to develop partnerships with other, what we call, like-minded countries, but they have all come with complications. Especially with USA, I referred to earlier that this equation has become a little more complicated. Japan, things have been better, but even then, delivering on projects we had agreed has never been easy. How to do that? How this requires, with friendly countries, first understanding to what extent we would like to work with the country, given their behavior at that point of time. Secondly, it should be very clear to them that we should not be working at cross purposes, that our interests should not be undermined, because we are the resident power. We are the country which is affected most because we live in this neighborhood. I don't think that kind of dialogue is taking place, where we have honest, frank discussion, both at track 1 level and track 2 level, on what we can do together, what we can't do together. With China, we tried joint project like training of Afghan diplomats. I don't see that happening, that kind of joint initiative anytime soon, given kind of relationship, fraught relationship we have with China. But with others, it's possible. USA, Japan, Gulf states, countries, this is something we have to keep exploring, at the same time recognizing that our neighboring countries will do strategic hedging. We should not hold it against them. If we were in their position, we'll also do the same thing. I think we should be realistic about it. Now, I will, what I'll do, since I'm running out of time, I'll not go into specifics now. I will make 3 final propositions. One, implementation. All this is fine. I mean, we know what needs to be done, but how to do it? What should be mechanisms for delivery? I have a lot of specific ideas. I will not go into that here. But this requires, institutional reform and capacity building for engaging with the neighbors, which is lacking at present. Raghavan was the first head of Development Partnership Administration. He did things differently. But gradually, things have become routine. So Development Partnership Administration is like any other division of Ministry of External Affairs. That was not the idea. It needs to be empowered. It needs to be given, both certain authority in decision making and financial resources and discretion. That is not there. A whole lot of things need to be done, which we can discuss later. Let me close with a set of candid observations. First, the neighborhood is not a problem to be solved once and for all. It's a strategic space that will require continuous attention, resources, and political imagination. And there will be setbacks from time to time. We should be prepared for that. Second, our influence will be limited. We are not omnipotent in our part of the world. We have to accept that today all countries, the smallest country has agency, and we have to respect that agency. If we don't do that, it just creates more bitterness, it creates more pushback. Third, practicality must trump symbolism. Often we go for symbolic gestures, announcements of projects which are not brought to fruition. We have to be very circumspect about what we offer, but once we offer, we have to deliver. Fourth, anyway, I've covered it, respect for sovereignty is non-negotiable. I think this is one area where large countries like India have to bear in mind, and we have to be honest about trade-offs. There will be trade-offs which we'll have to justify, we'll have to explain to our people. Investing in large projects requires fiscal discipline. It requires involvement of private sector, which is largely missing at this point of time. How to do that? Sixth, we must prepare to learn and adapt. And that's why I responded positively when the suggestion was made that this chair will look at Asian affairs and neighborhood, because this is really an area we need to focus on, develop expertise there, come up with ideas. Proceeding from this conviction is not charity, it's enlightened self-interest on our part. We talk casually about why do we offer open border to Nepal, or we talk about Bangladesh as the third frontier, not realizing what are the implications there. Managing two interlinked fronts, China-Pakistan front, has been bad enough. We can't really think in terms of opening a third front. Finally, neighborhood is a source of strength and not a problem to be contained. I think if we start with that understanding that if we get our periphery right, if it gains, then we gain economic resilience, strategic depth, and diplomatic leverage. If we neglect our periphery, it creates vulnerabilities, and adversaries will exploit. There's no doubt about it. So neighborhood first 2.0, if I may call it, has to be a disciplined, interlinked set of propositions that require political courage, institutional reform, and operational competence. It asks India to be generous in spirit, but strategic in execution, to be a partner and not a patron, to be patient, not passive. I'll conclude there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for such an enlightening lecture. Your insights have certainly broadened our perspectives, and I'm sure our audience would have some question and answer that they'd like to engage with. We'll now take a set of question answers. We'd like to start with the students first. Please raise your hands and a mic will be brought to you. While you ask your questions, please introduce yourselves first, and then you can go ahead with the questions. I'll also request you to keep your questions short so that we can take up as many questions as possible.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everybody present here. So first of all, thank you for such an insightful session. Your experience really opened up a new dimension or new frontier in my head. Sir, actually, it's more of a two-part question. The first one being that you were in China during a very interesting period. You started there in 2014. That was when President Xi had just started.
I started there in 1981 actually. So.
My bad, sir. As ambassador to China.
I'll request you to keep your questions shorter, please. We can accommodate more questions that way.
Sorry,
Thank you.
This is an amazing opportunity.
I understand that.
Sir, you were during the time when President Xi just became the president, and even Prime Minister Modi here had just become the Prime Minister for the first time. During this time, Prime Minister Modi used personal diplomacy as his, let's say, star show of his foreign policy, where he invited SAARC leaders and everything, and then later on we also had President Xi coming to Ahmedabad. But during that same period, we also had a lot of around 1,000 PLA troops coming into eastern Ladakh, and President Xi was here and you were in Beijing that time. Could you please provide your insights on that first? And second, sir, it's a very short question. The way forward is obviously cooperation and, like giving them a strategy, like a stakeholder in our growth story. But sir, how do we secure ourselves from that? Okay, I'll limit it, sir. Let's just talk about how. So let's just leave it at inside.
Okay.
Your first question, you rightly mentioned that President Xi Jinping was relatively new in his office in May 2014 when Prime Minister Modi came to office for the first time. And I was in Beijing at that time, and in fact, initiative came from Chinese side. Initiative came that first they wanted to send Mr. Wang Yi, was foreign minister even at that point of time, as President Xi is a special emissary. And we welcomed that. He became the first foreign minister to visit India in June 2014. And that visit itself, he discussed the possibility of President Xi coming to India, entirely their initiative. When we were preparing for visit, they suggested if President Xi could go to Ahmedabad, to Prime Minister's home state. Our protocol wasn't keen on that because that kind of thing doesn't happen, because they expected Prime Minister to travel there. I recommended that we should accommodate the Chinese request because it was coming right from top, from President Xi himself, Prime Minister, and then Minister of External Affairs, Mr. Swaraj. They went along with that. We had a very awkward situation when day one of the visit, when President Xi had arrived in Ahmedabad, the Prime Minister was hosting a dinner for him on the banks of Sabarmati River. We got information that situation in Chumar and Demchok had escalated. I can't go into specifics, but I can tell you that the Prime Minister raised this matter personally with President Xi, and we had follow-up discussions in New Delhi past midnight, and we agreed that we will not let this issue come in the way of a successful visit. They assured us they will take care of our concern, which they did. In fact, when I returned to Beijing, we had discussions. Our position is very simple. restore status quo ante as of 1st September 2014. We refused to discuss anything else, and they complied with that. So, situation was managed. It was different China we were dealing with that point of time. They were not as aggressive as they were in 2020 when there were multiple transgressions in eastern Ladakh. And our leadership also showed both firmness and flexibility. Prime Minister took that call, and it stood us in good stead.
We have a few more questions there, and one on this side as well, please.
Can you speak a bit louder? Yeah. No, speak closer to mic. Yeah.
Comparing India and China in trying to cross dominant power in both global stage as well as the regional forum. So, China refrains from taking any political interference in its neighbor countries. But India, what he mentioned, tends to do that. So, how much does this impact the smaller nations to prefer China over India, despite knowing the fact that there is a Chinese debt trap policy and these are still projected as big brother in this world?
I'll not say that they prefer China over India. In fact, one point I didn't make because of shortage of time is that when we tried to counter the China challenge, the best option for us is to leverage our own strengths, and we underestimate our strengths. Kind of synergies we have with these countries, kind of interlinkages we have with these countries is enormous. How to work on that? That's why I know connectivity becomes such an important part of our agenda. That's why linking these economies, our economy with that of neighboring countries, becomes so important. Because then we'll be giving them options, which China in a different way is offering. China offers projects backed by loans. Many of these projects are not viable. You're aware of Hambantota Port, what happened. But if they are the only game in town, our neighbors go to them. Sometimes they don't. Like Nepal is resisting, going for BRI projects. Sri Lanka also has become far more cautious. So developing a strategy of dealing with the China which is realistic and which is predicated on forging linkages, synergies, which help us in persuading those countries not to ignore our interests. So this is not something, this is a practical proposition. In many areas we are doing it. We don't talk about those things publicly, and we do it successfully. A lot of things which are prevented from happening, they never come in public domain because we don't want to publicize those things. So thinking that somehow, they prefer China over India, yes, they would like to, as I mentioned, they would like to use China as a countervailing force vis-a-vis India. They would like to take advantage of China's strategic outreach to our part of the world. All that is true. We have to learn to live with that. But we are not so helpless that we can't deal with this situation.
Thank you. We have a question on to my left as well. Could we have a mic there, please?
Good evening, Ambassador. So my name is Srinidhi, and I work as a researcher at ISB. One of my concerns or an observation is that there is a paradox. Like whenever we see, I mean, your suggestion is also improving connectivity and delivery of projects. By the time our projects come to fruition, some situation develops in the neighborhood which risks that project becoming into a sunk cost. So your views on this, please.
No, in fact, I had made some suggestions. There are more detailed suggestions in my prepared remarks, which I will offer for circulation. We need to approach it somewhat differently. There are examples, very large projects, which we implemented very successfully. And when I was referring to 50,000 houses, we started on the wrong foot. We had a pilot project of 1,000 houses given to a PSU, I shall not name it. It's subcontracted, and we got really, a lot of big pats. We recommended total course correction. In our request proposal, we said no contractors need to apply. We went for owner-built housing, where owners took responsibility. We asked for agencies to, and I must say, with help of colleagues like Raghavan, who understood the strategic implications of project, we completely disregarded rules like L1. In fact, we selected 3 agencies. One was paid 5% and maximum was up to 12%. So it's possible to find solution. This is one. Second, we need to have buy-in both on part of governments concerned and communities concerned. Because if these are see what happened to wind energy project in Sri Lanka. It didn't take off because local community had a lot of reservations. They resisted. It had to be abandoned. So preparation of project, as in India, we have to prepare ground for projects. That kind of detailed work needs to be done. But these projects, ownership must be taken by those countries. If they are seen somehow as our largest or something which is being taken up as per our agenda, unilateral agenda, they will not go anywhere. But if it's done in collaborative manner, in fact, they will go the extra mile to collaborate. Again, coming back to 50,000 houses, one concern we have that they will be treated as patronage by government of the day. So we said, no, we'll have selection of beneficiary completely transparent on a point system which will be made public. Anyone can challenge. We had absolutely no complaint about selection of beneficiary, and this is all with partnership of local government. So we have to work hard, develop expertise both within government and outside, and most importantly work with the countries and communities concerned.
Good evening, sir. My name is Chanakya. I'm with the fellowship program. So during your discussion, you said during Operation Sindhu, there was an unprecedented level of battlefield collision with real-time ground support, between Pakistan and China. So keeping that in mind, one question that's been bugging me is why cannot India use Tibet card effectively? I mean, despite the 1954 decision to formally recognize Tibet as sovereign territory of PRC and despite 17-point agreement, how can India effectively, leverage its Tibet card without getting involved in another war crisis like Doklam? Thank you.
I'll be very honest with you. Much water has flown in Yalung Sangpo River since 1954. We don't have a Tibet card. What can we do? We cannot de-recognize Tibet as a part of China. In fact, a certain formulation we has used in 2003, the Tibet Autonomous Region is part of territory of People's Republic of China. We stopped using it because we pointed out that that includes what they call South Tibet. So how can we say it's part of territory of PRC? We have never used that again. But in practice, apart from certain positions we take, what can we do in practice? We are not going to sort of get involved in internal matters of Tibet. I can tell you, I was in Tibet just last November. Chinese are well entrenched there. Security state of China is very formidable, and we are not. We are not interested in getting involved. So where is the Tibet card? So I don't really see a Tibet card which can be used by us, and we don't want to insult people like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but treating them as a card. No, that's not how we have operated.
Thank you, sir. Due to shortage of time, we'll have to stop the question answer session here. I'm pretty sure the talk was really interesting and all of you have a lot more questions. And I really hope that Ambassador Kantha will be here with us again and we could have another interactive session with him. But for now, let us move ahead with the event. Thank you all for your thoughtful questions. And also, thank you, Ambassador Kantha, for your responses. So please be seated. I now request our Pro-Chancellor, Shri M.P. Kumarji, our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Yashwanta Dongre, to felicitate Ambassador Kantha. I'd also request Professor Chetan to join us on stage. I would also request I'd also like to request Mrs. Sharmila Kantha to join us on the dais. Ma'am, please. I'd also request Ms. Gargi and Ms. Kritika to join us on stage to felicitate ma'am. I'd request everyone to please stay back. After this enriching interaction, we will now move on to the next special segment of this evening, the unveiling of an important publication that reflects Chanakya University's commitment to advancing scholarship in international relations. The edited volume, Restructuring India's Worldview, a Strategic Realignment, is the outcome of the Roundtable on India's Engagement with the World, held in June 2024, which was chaired by late Ambassador Raghavan. I'd also request Dr. Chirai to join us on the stage.
Come. You get more claps. There are many of your students there. Come.
I request everyone to please take their seats. The edited volume, Restructuring India's Worldview, a Strategic Realignment, is the outcome of the Roundtable on India's Engagement with the World, held in June 2024. This roundtable was chaired by Ambassador Raghavan. His ideation and mentoring, along with the guidance of Ambassador Parthasarathi, Ambassador Vijay Gokhale, Ambassador Pankaj Saran, and Professor Harsh Pant, laid the foundation of this book. The cover of the book shows a pin of the compass pointing towards the south, indicating the strategic realignment of the world affairs. We would like to thank Ambassador Kantha for agreeing to unveil the book today. Thank you, sir. It is now my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the Subhas Chandra Bose Chair on International Relations for this special occasion. As we conclude yet another edition of Distinguished Lecture Series at Chanakya University, I would like to thank everyone for joining us. First and foremost, I extend my deepest gratitude to Ambassador Ashok K. Kantha for delivering a compelling and thought-provoking lecture. Sir, your expertise, clarity of thought, and nuanced analysis have enriched our understanding of India's neighbourhood policy and provided us with much to reflect upon. We are truly honoured to have hosted you today. Our sincere appreciation goes to late Ambassador Raghavan, whose contributions to the nation and to the chair continue to inspire us. I would also like to thank Dr. Chirayu for continuing to facilitate the activities at the Subhas Chandra Bose Chair on International Relations proactively. A special word of thanks to all the contributors, editors, mentors associated with the edited volume that was unveiled today. We are grateful to our founding Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, COO, Vice-Chancellor, Ambassador Parthasarathi, all the dignitaries who are present here, and all others at the Chanakya University for having supported us through the book as well as for gracing this occasion. We extend our special mention to Mrs. Sharmila Kantha. Ma'am, thank you for joining us today. We extend our gratitude to the Indian Institute of World Culture for making this venue available to us. We also thank the faculty members, administrative staff, communications team, transport team, and all the people involved with the event's coordination and whose efforts have ensured the smooth running of this program today. To our students, guests, and all the members at Chanakya University present here, thank you for your enthusiastic participation. Your presence and engagement adds meaning to such events. As we bring this memorable event to close, let us carry forward the reflections shared today into our future endeavors. Thank you once again, and now I request all of you to rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. I have a few announcements to make while we proceed outside. I request all of you to remain seated while our dignitaries are escorted outside the hall. There is high tea arranged outside. You can find it right outside the auditorium towards your left while you exit. Thank you. For more updates, please stay tuned with Chanakya University.